All right, basically, we're just going to be talking in this first part of the video. We're going to talk about fiscal policies, and that's basically like policies that the government can do to basically correct the economy if it's in a recession or inflation. So as you can see right here, we are producing. This is an inflationary gap because long-term aggregate supply is right here, and then you have the demand, and then short-term supply right here, and you're producing right here. Now, in order to get it switched down, what the government would do is basically to is increase taxes and decrease government spending. Now, why would you do that? Well, when you just for example, so when you decrease government spending, you have less jobs being created, and as well as increasing taxes, you have less money to go around to be able to pump into the economy. So you're gonna be able to slow it down. So how to work with production possibility curve right here is if we're reducing right here, when you increase the taxes, companies will be able to buy, basically put less things back into their company. So it's gonna bring it down back to here because they gotta put more money aside to pay for taxes. So it's gonna slow down basically their production, be able to invest back to get trucks and all that and things to get workers. So that's how that's gonna work. And then as well as you're talking about the Phillips curve, when you're at, let's see, unemployment, we got inflation. It's the opposite of this. It's gonna go here. It's gonna be up here. And anytime anything shifts aggregate demand, it moves on this line. If it was shifting supply, you would have, another line up here. Because it's demand, you're gonna have right here. And it's gonna go back down this way because you have less jobs being created and you have, less companies investing money back in to get like truck drivers, getting trucks and getting truck drivers to be able to operate that. So that's how that shifts this way. Now, let's say you're in a recession, like right here, and you're trying to get back up in here. Well, what you want to do is increase government spending and lower taxes. Yes, because when you lower taxes, companies have more money to be able to invest back in their company, get trucks and workers and new jobs such as that. So that's going to shift this to here, as well as the government be able to create more jobs. So that's going to shift this to here, and it's going to shift this back up to here. And now we're just going to new paper, and we're just going to talk about money multiplier. So in this part of the video, we're going to talk about the spending multiplier. And basically how it works is, if the government, does government spending, that becomes someone's income. And then out of that income, portion of that you're going to save, and then you're going to spend, which becomes someone else's income. And it just keeps going and going and going, going and going and going. And it has a ripple effect throughout the economy. Now, it is broken up between marginal propensity consumed and marginal propensity saved. And that's just between spending and saving, and how much money that's multiplied through the economy determines how much is saved and how much is spent. And it is broken up out of one, because the spending and saving can equal one. That's the number one. Because you're going to do two things with new income, which is either spend it or save it. Now, it is broken up basically into decimals. So if you were saving, 50% of your income, then marginal propensity saved would be 0.5. And if you were spending that, it'd be 0.5 as well. So that's how it's broken up between one. And the formula for that is 1 over marginal propensity saved. So as you can see, 1 over 5. And then from there, times that by 10, you get 10 over 5, which equals 2. So then multiply it out to 2. So that's the excess. Let me just think of an example. So, if you're doing that, the government, put $2 billion in, and the marginal percentage saved was 0.5, you would have extra 2, and 2 billion times 2 billion is 4 billion, and it's going to be 4 billion in total spending. Now for tax multiplier, it is one less than than how much you get from the spending multiplier. That's because it has one less ripple, and people are going to save part of tax cut. So if you have 10, if you created let's say 10 billion in total spending, if it was, tax multiplier, it'd be 9 billion because you had to subtract that by 1. And that's everything about the multiplier. And then we're going to go ahead and just go over to crowding out and loanable funds. For our last video, we're just going to end up by discussing just the money graph and loanable funds graph. Well, money market. Well, when we talk about money market and fiscal policy, we're really talking about increasing and decreasing the money supply. Now, for this specific example, through my country's eyes, we're just going to say that we lower taxes. We're just going to give extra money to pump back into the economy. We're just going to shift this down, which is going to lower interest rates, which in the short run is going to increase GDP, consumer spending, investing spending, and lower interest rate. But that's just in the short run. And that really goes against the quantity theory of money. But that's just short run. Now in the long run, that's gonna, cause inflation, which is gonna increase price level, which is gonna end up to increase the demand of money. And we need more money, that's gonna cause interest rates to go back up. And as you can see, this is just gonna shift here. And equilibrium is going to go right back to where it was. And that's in line with the quantity theory of money. Now, when we talk about loanable funds, this graph right here, it is basically just discussing the supply of interest rates. You have demand, and you have supply. When demand is the borrowers, and S is the suppliers. Now, what's cool about this graph is, let's say your equilibrium is 5%. And let's say you have inflation that's going to be 3%. This is known as the Fisher effect, or basically in this graph, people they adjust for the influxes of inflation. So let's say they know there's going to be 3% inflation. Well, lenders are going to increase their prices so they're not losing that 5% interest rate, money they were making in profit. So it's going to shift up now to 8%. And then the demand is also going to shift because they know that inflation is going to take care of it. The borrowers, so they're going to borrow at this price because they know it's inflation, which really is just showing the real interest rate of still being 5%. Because the real interest rate is just nominal interest rate divided by the expected inflation. Now, the certain thing that, shifts on the loanable funds market, supply and demand is, one that would shift supply is just savings rate, a change in savings rate. Now, demand can also be like a new market has opened up. Let's say like asteroid mining. So people are going to demand and borrow that money to be able to do that. Now, what we're discussing also, as you see, as the fiscal policy, we increase the money supply because, we lower taxes. As you can see in the short run. In the short run over here is going to increase the demand of interest rate because the prices, as you can see, are going to fall. But it's like that is just in the short run. Like I told you, price levels, all that increase, bring us back up here. And that's just going to bring this back up to equilibrium or back to the natural interest rate. Now, another thing the government can do is also for fiscal policy is increase government spending. But instead of printing out more money, they just borrow the money. and that's known as a deficit spending. Now, what this does is, at a deficit spending, as you borrow, you shift demand, mind all this, which increases interest rates. And that causes crowding out, because as interest rates increase, less people are going to borrow that money. And you're crowding those people out of the market. So that's the hurting the economy. And I believe that is everything. Yeah.